Welcome, everybody. We have two items on the agenda today. We're going to take requests for bill sponsorship, and then we will have a presentation by Department of Corrections. So I'll start with any committee member that has a bill that they'd like to ask the committee to sponsor. Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience? Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a bill that I would like to introduce. This is the RS number. It's green, is it not? Yep. The RS number is 2756, and this would be related to work release programs and educational release programs for those that have been convicted and register as a sex offender when they're in prison.
Any questions by the committee? Any objection? We'll accept that and sponsor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Are there any other bill sponsor requests? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a report from our Department of Corrections. Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman. Members of the committee, thanks for having me here this afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to come and present some information related to an overview of the agency and some of our operational stuff. Before I get too far into it, I want to introduce a member of my executive team that's here with me today. Many of you already know her. Jennifer King is the Executive Director of Public Affairs, and you'll see Jennifer around in the building. And if you have any questions or you need anything from her, certainly please reach out to her. Maybe here, let me try this. There we go. So again, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the organization, some information regarding key activities and some challenges. Also want to take a few minutes towards the end and talk about the governor's budget recommendations. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly. I certainly want to leave time either during the presentation or at the end for questions. Going to talk a little bit about staffing, about our population, educational programming, digital upgrades and communications, our capital improvements plan, reentry, nursery at the Topeka Correctional Facility, contraband issues that we're having, and then again, the governor's budget or recommendations. So this slide, and I hope you have a copy in front of you, just as a snapshot of some of the information regarding our staffing, population, and programs for the agency. And I won't go through all those, but some interesting numbers that are in there for you. 95% of our incarcerated population one day returns back to the community. And generally speaking, it's that community from which they came. 58% of those releasing serve a year or less in our correctional facilities. 75% serve 2 years or less. Kind of there's a general perception, I think, out there that people go to prison and we can kind of dust it off and it's over with. It's not. They're coming back to our communities. Our Office of Victim Services provided services to nearly 41,000 registered victims last year. And residents employed in our private industry and work release programs paid over $1.2 million back to crime victims last year. It's a map that reflects locations of our 8 adult and our 1 juvenile correctional facilities. 3 of the adult correctional facilities also have satellites that appear on the map. El Dorado has a satellite in Oswego. Winfield has the Wichita Work Release Facility in downtown Wichita that is an appendage of it. And then Norton has a small facility that's a satellite in Stockton. Our facility for women and our juvenile facility are here in Topeka. I've done this before, but I like to do it every time. I would welcome you, extend the invitation at any time that's convenient for you. Come to any of our facilities and see the staff in action, observe the operations, visit with the population, and get a better sense of what's going on out there. Staff would be excited to see you, and we welcome that at any time.
I can stop you. So I think it works best if any member of the committee has a question, they'll just interrupt you as you go, rather than have to go back. So feel free to do that. Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Secretary, I don't know how very loud there. When we talk about correctional facilities, so you talk about juvenile correction facilities and women's, how do they separate them? I don't know if I asked this last year or not. If I did, forgive me, because we have a juvenile correction facility there in Junction City, or detention center, I guess would be. And I know people come from other counties that they will bring the juveniles there. So how does that work? I mean, is it separate then? Or?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, thank you for the question. I think there's a separation. We have one state-operated juvenile facility. That's typically for kids that are sentenced for a little bit, or youth that are sentenced for a little bit longer period of time for felonies, and so they're under state jurisdiction. Probably a detention facility, while they might be in there for a felony, typically more of a shorter period of time, maybe a year or less, something like that. And those are typically locally operated.
Yes, Representative Smith has a question.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. You know, a couple of your facilities, I think they're gone. I don't know if they've been sold. The old BIS facility here in Topeka, and then in Atchison, they had a receiving home for when those kids left Topeka. They came to Atchison and lived there. Have they sold those facilities, or?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I don't know. Both of those facilities were not in use before my time here, and I don't believe we own them because we're not maintaining them. I don't believe they're longer in our possession.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ressman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, you mentioned a year. Most of the prisoners are serving 1 year. Is that what you said?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I believe that in a detention facility, they're probably not there longer than a year. Kind of like a jail, they're not there for a longer term sentence, I believe, for the most part. I believe if they're doing a longer sentence, it's probably a more serious crime on a grid, and they would be coming to a state facility for that felony. This map reflects our parole office locations geographically throughout the state. And again, we have 19 of those. As with our correctional facilities, we'd welcome you stopping by at any time. Just observe the staff and the work that they're doing. I think it helps you understand better what we're doing as an agency, and certainly we welcome it anytime.
I have a question. So on this map you're showing us in the Northwest Kansas Community Corrections, there's no particular location. How does that work? Is it all virtual, or how does that work?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know. They have an office somewhere. I'm not sure where the office is. The reason that is portrayed in that is we have a contract with an entity to provide that service out there. That's not actually our staff that are operating that. It's contracted through an entity who supervises that entire area. I'm sure they have an office, and I could find out where that's at for you.
I was just curious. It's not that important, but I was curious. But they do have an office. It's just not.
They do, and it's just a different piece of the operation than all of our other offices.
Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary, on the previous page, there's large geographical areas. If someone, where do they have to meet at the office of their of their probation or parole office, or does the parole office have like office hours across that region? How does that work for someone?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, great question. I think years ago you would have seen where the person on supervision always had to come into the office, and it was always probably during Monday through Friday during the business week. We've moved away from that, as many jurisdictions have, because people are working and it's inconvenient for them. So I think you'll see more virtual meetings. some off hours or after hour meetings. Sometimes the officers are out doing home visits. Maybe they're coming and meeting with the person they're supervising at a different location. Could even be a coffee shop, something like that.
Okay, so there's not really like a barrier to like being able to follow the rules by having to travel from Cherokee County to whatever county that the closest one is.
You really want to remove those barriers for that person to be successful. When it's hard for people really, and I'll talk about it a little later, it's hard for people releasing from prison to get a job sometimes. So when they get that job, let's not make them have to leave their job for an hour and a half, and their employer's upset to come and report to the office. Let's see if we can find a way to do that at the end of the day or virtually on the lunch hour or something like that.
Thank you, Secretary, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
So this slide reflects all of our FTEs, our full-time equivalent employees, authorized positions for the entire agency. This includes facilities, parole offices, and our central office or headquarters, which is also located here in Topeka. Positions on the graph are broken down by uniform and non-uniform positions. We have just slightly over 3,500 authorized positions, and nearly 60% of those are uniformed or security-related positions. Staffing throughout the agency remains stable as it has over the past couple, 3 years compared to what we experienced during the pandemic. A significant factor leading to that improvement is the investment made regarding compensation for the workforce. There's been 4 or 5 years of investment in them. It's created a greater ability to recruit and retain our workforce. Thanks to both the legislature and the governor for that investment. It really has, for recognizing the need and making that investment, it certainly has made a difference. And we're moving a little bit past just recruiting and retention. We're starting to build some experience in those people that have recently joined us, which is super important, getting people with 3-4 years of experience. So this graph kind of tells a little bit of a historical story, and on the right we lost a little part of the graph to the most current piece, so I apologize for that. But it's trends in our vacancies related to uniform positions in our adult correctional facilities. And the yellow boxes are where an investment came in pay and for the staff. So in January 2022, there was an investment made on the base pay and some pay differentials. We had vacancy rates at most facilities in excess of 20% and quite a few at 25%. We had 460 vacant uniform positions in January of 2022. July of 2024, we saw a significant decrease compared to 18 months prior. We dropped down to about 275 vacancies, so that's a significant improvement. From July 2025 to date, and that includes another base pay increase in July, we're averaging roughly 165 to 185 uniform vacancies. So from where we were 3.5 years ago, well, 4 years ago now, 460 vacancies, we're down in the 165 to 185. So that investment and efforts to retain people have paid off. We're doing a lot better. This slide is the Kansas Juvenile Correctional Complex. That's our juvenile facility here in Topeka. It talks about, this slide reflects uniform vacancies there. Now, on the far right of the slide, there's a jump in vacancies late in 2025. That's not anything new that happened. There had been a miscommunication regarding how to track vacancies and the reporting of uniforms, and we got that corrected, and that's why you see the jump. The facility was reporting only vacancies in the juvenile correctional officer position and not all uniform vacancies like sergeants, lieutenants, what have you. So we've gotten that corrected, and we're reporting all ranks. But things are very stable at KJCC. Again, retention efforts, much improved. Those pay raises, thank you for that. That's made a big difference. Last year, you funded uniform upgrades, And we're in the process of upgrading those uniforms. And for those of you that may have served in a uniform, whether it be in the military, law enforcement, what have you, uniforms are important to staff. It can be a real morale booster and a retention tool for us. So we're excited about that. And then we just continue efforts to try to make the workplace as positive, keep it clean, keep it neat as much as we can, and improve the work environment for our employees. We think that's a big factor towards retention. A little bit about population, or maybe a lot about population. Individuals, this slide reflects individuals under our authority, those that are incarcerated in a facility or supervised post-incarceration in the community, on parole, if you will. We continue to realize an increase in the number of adults coming into our correctional facilities. So a little bit of context. Pre-pandemic, in May of 2019, we had nearly 10,100 adults in our correctional facilities. We were maxed out to the point where we had to send some people out of state to Arizona. I think we sent about 120 men to Arizona. We were beyond full. So that was at 10,100. During the pandemic, March of 2022, with the courts kind of curtailing activities and whatnot, we dropped down to 8,300 adults. So significant decrease. Currently, we're at about 9,700. So from March of 2022 to date, not quite 4 years, we've seen that increase by about 1,400, and it just continues. And I'll show a slide here in a minute that'll reflect some of that. We have 156 juveniles in our facility here in Topeka, and that number has been pretty consistent. It fluctuates a little bit, but not dramatically. And we supervise over 5,100 adults in the community on post-incarceration or on parole. Some demographics about our population, just quick at a glance. Adult women make about 75% of the women in our system are white, and about 20% are black, and then there's some other in there. Adult men, about 66% are white, 29% are black. The men is about the same demographics, percentages as a year ago. The women, there's 4% less white and 4% more black than a year ago. Then about 16% of our adult males in facilities are Hispanic, and about 10% of our women are Hispanic.
Hey, Mr. Secretary, you had addressed the slide before the governor curtailed the way, was it the way they placed them in jail, incarceration? You had 10,000 and it went down to 9 something. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, thanks for the question. So pre-pandemic, just before the pandemic, we were at 10,000, almost 10,100. We were beyond full. We had some men in Arizona, and we were figuring out how we were going to do beds. And the pandemic hits, and it just seemed like the court system and law enforcement, things changed out in the community. There weren't as many coming to us. That dropped off. That was just a natural kind of phenomena. We kept releasing people when it was time for them to release, and so with less coming in and the same amount going out, that population just started to naturally drop till it kind of hit bottom in 2020, March of 2022, and then it just started, as the courts opened back up, things started returning back to normal. We just started to see the population return to a climb. So this slide reflects recidivism. Recidivism is measured, kind of a national standard is if somebody is out for 3 years, releases from prison, they're out for 3 years, they don't come back to prison, they're deemed to have been successful. It's a measurement tool, so 3 years. This reflects the 3-year period. So you're always lagging. Your data is always really lagging 3 years behind. New convictions are fairly flat. Those violating terms of their conditional release is up about 4%. Going to talk a little bit more about projected growth, what the Kansas Sentencing Commission is telling us, what they see, and how it ties in with our capital project plan for the coming years.
Representative Mosley has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Secretary, Going back to the slide, you don't have to return back to it, but where you're talking about people violating some type of conditional release, are there any trends for the most common violation that causes someone to find themselves back into the prisons, inside of a jail or inside of a prison?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, that's a great question. In general, very few people are coming back for a technical violation. We try to work with folks and keep them out there. Generally people are violating because they've committed some kind of a crime. I believe that wouldn't necessarily have to be a felony. It might be a misdemeanor, and it means they're coming back.
And then I have one other question. For the people who are, what percentage of folks, do we still arrest people for nonviolent drug offenses and put them in prison system in Kansas? I don't want to ask a question that is not a scenario that's possible in Kansas. For nonviolent drug offenses, for the most part.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I'm not the expert on that. I would guess you could be coming to prison if you had a certain amount of drugs.
Okay, do you see individuals who, and what percentage of folks who come in with something that's like maybe not a person crime, but now they're like in the carceral system, and now they're returning back because they got arrested for a crime that wasn't like a person related crime, like nonviolent crimes?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Boyle, I would not know. We could try to pull that information.
Okay, that would
We
be
could do that
awesome.
and
Yeah.
get that to the committee.
Thank you.
Just in that connection, I know there's a lot of ambiguity as to what nonviolence means, so I'll be interested in what you find.
Okay, we'll pull what we have. So this is the Kansas prison population actual, projected, and it also reflects our capacity. This is both men and women on this slide, and then I'll break out both. This should illustrate the growth in our system and the need probably for some beds here in the future unless something changes. So the actual population is the dark line to the lower left on this slide. And you see where it's graphed there over time. The projected population is kind of that amber or orange line more to the right of the slide that's climbing. That flat horizontal line that intersects with the amber or orange line, that's our capacity. So our overall capacity is 10,892. And you'll note that the intersection, this is for both genders, you'll note the intersection of the projected line with the current capacity line is around late 2028 or early 2029. So that's roughly 2.5 to 3 years, where if projections stay on point, we'll have reached our capacity, our bed capacity in our current facilities. And then I would add, Director Schultz isn't presenting to the committee probably today, but the Sentencing Commission does a phenomenal job historically of these projections. It really helps decision makers and us as an agency plan. So I feel pretty confident that those projections, unless some event occurs, will be on target.
Representative Seibert has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we talk about capacities and inmates and stuff, there's a rumor I heard that some men identifying as women were moved to the women's correctional facility. Is that a rumor or is that a truth?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, we have a number of people that identify as transgender, and they're not moved to the Topeka Correctional Facility. The Topeka Correctional Facility is our facility for women. We do have one individual that has had a surgery, a gender-affirming surgery, that was moved to that facility and is pretty much segregated from the population, but is at that facility for safety reasons.
So to confirm my question, there's only one person, not 10 or 12.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, there are not 10 or 12, there's one. There was one other that had come into the system recently and has been released. There's one there today.
Just want to answer my constituents with the right information. Thank you.
Representative Neely?
probably getting ahead of myself, and I'm sure you're probably going to cover this, but, you know, we've already had a potential discussion and everything about Hutchinson Correctional Facility and the replacement. You can't build that in 2 years, can you? So where are the beds going to come from? Where, with your projections and stuff that way, where are they going to come from?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, great question. I think we have a little more time with the men, and I hope I can illustrate on the graph. But you're right, 2 years we'll not have a facility the size and scope of a rebuild of the central unit at Hutchinson. We will not have that online. The women are actually a little closer to maxing out capacity, and we may have some solutions that we can get to a little quicker to help that. I think I'll have it on my slide, but I think we're about 3 years from the men, so that's a little more in line with what it might take to build a larger scale project.
Okay, and I'll have more questions when that comes up probably, so thank you.
Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pleasure to see you, Mr. Secretary. Following up on my colleague, Representative Syworth's insightful question. We heard testimony last week from the executive officer of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. This was in the Judiciary Committee, that suggested that transgender people who are in custody are classified based upon the letter that appears on their driver's license, F or M. Now, in the court case that we were discussing in that same context, it's the Harper case, there was testimony from the Department of Corrections, as I recall it at least, that said that people are not being classified based upon the letter on their driver's license. When you have transgender individuals who are sent to the penitentiary, do you classify them based on the letter on their driver's license, M or F? Or if not, how do you classify those individuals?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, we probably would not do it based on driver's license, because oftentimes they come to us, we don't have their driver's license, right? We could look them up and do that. So really, it would be more other documents. It could be the pre-sentence investigation that identifies that. It could be a birth certificate, that type of thing.
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. Chair. So you're classifying people based upon the letter that's on their birth certificate as opposed to their physical attributes at the time they're admitted to DOC?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, well, we certainly do a search of those people, and it's probably clear, at least by their anatomy, what gender they are, but
okay, I thought I heard you say you look at their birth certificate to classify them.
To where they're housed. It wouldn't necessarily be classification, it would be their housing assignment, whether they're going, so they'll come into us, typically this is how it would work. We have a reception and diagnostic unit for men at the El Dorado Correctional Facility, and we have one for women at the Topeka Correctional Facility. Typically, they come in from county and they bring them to the appropriate facility. So if someone's a man and they're coming in from a county jail, they would bring them to El Dorado. There's a search done, make sure, look at documents, and that's how we start the process. If there was, somebody was erroneously brought to El Dorado that should have been taken to Topeka, we would realize that and make the change.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm more confused now than I was before, but I won't take any more of the committee's time to resolve my confusion. Thank you.
Welcome, yeah. And I was in on the Judiciary Committee meeting that you mentioned, and I'm not going to add to the confusion, but I might just say that my understanding is from the testimony was that the driver's license was one of the things they looked at, not the exclusive thing. But we'll take that up in due course. Thank you.
Can I add
Yeah,
one
you-
more
you
thing,
may.
Mr. Chairman? And I'm sorry, maybe I got off target a little bit. Really, it's placement rather than classification. Our classification is just your custody level, and if you're a minimum custody or you're a high security threat, it's really the placement. Are you placed at this facility or that type of facility by gender?
Please continue.
This graph depicts the actual and projected incarcerated adult male population. And you can see the capacity line running horizontally where it intersects with projected. That's at some point in 2029. So about 3 years or so from now is when we think we're going to need some additional beds for the men if the projections hold true. This is the trend in the adult female population. And as you can see, and looking at the projected line, it's a lot closer to that capacity line already. The intersection of growth with the current capacity is projected to be in 2028, so we're about 2 years. So probably going to need some beds for our female population in 2 years and some beds for our men in about 3.
And, if I might, so the Hutchinson facility is for men, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And the only facility for women is here in Topeka.
That's correct.
So what's the thinking about how we increase the bed for women in a 2-year period?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. So we would add a housing unit there or a couple of housing units in some fashion if we were able to. I don't think we need another new facility. I think the infrastructure would support another couple hundred women there.
And that's under projections, we're talking 2029, that's if I'm doing my...
2028 for the women, 2029 for the men. And we have a support services building that I'll talk about in a little bit that's going to come online in about 18 months. And I think that's going to add a few beds, so give us just a little bit more of a buffer with the women. I can talk about that.
All right, thank you.
If that's helpful.
Representative Barrett has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for giving us information today. I guess my question, I kind of mentioned this last year, just to know if there was any updates. So, like in my district, for example, Osage County and Coffee County have both built brand new facilities. They have like mental health areas, they have a full medical unit that they can utilize. They don't have staffing for it yet, but their capacity may only be 25, but they can hold over 100 in their facility, and they're looking to contract with currently right now with the federal government, like with the Marshals Service, things like that. If someone's going into prison for under a year, I mean, do you think that's an opportunity where you guys could contract with the counties? They would mutually benefit from it instead of using property taxes to pay for their jail. And then vice versa, you'd have a facility to stick them that's not out of state in Colorado. Is that something that's been considered and you're looking at?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, you're right on. So before back in 2019, before we moved those men to Arizona, we looked to contract with some county jails, and we did do that, a little bit of that. I think it was 3 different counties. The one that comes to mind is Cloud County. I think we had 50 or 60 there. We would always look to do that first, because anytime you're sending them out of state, they're farther away from their families, and it just creates a greater disconnect. Plus, it's good to keep them in Kansas for Kansas jobs and whatnot. Rather do that than out of state. One of the challenges we have with some counties is PREA compliance. Compliance with the Prison Rape Elimination Act. We have to make sure that wherever we house these folks has to be in compliance. And so when that time comes where we need contracted beds or we're getting closer to it, we'll start by reaching out to the counties and see if we can find partners there. That's always better than contracting out of state.
Appreciate that, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
So here's a number of individuals on supervision in the community by the numbers supervised by community corrections agencies throughout the state. So they're on probation. And having these individuals supervised by community corrections really provides the courts an alternative to sending them to our correctional facilities. It's an alternative to prison. It's a cost measure, and it's better for those individuals to stay connected, have a job, all those types of things, if it's appropriate for them to remain out in the community. A significant portion of the funding for the community corrections agencies is through state general fund dollars that our agency administers through a grant program. Most of their funding comes from that. So this past year, some of the community corrections agencies came forward and said, hey, we don't believe that the distribution of funds is equitable and that it's transparent enough, the formula and whatnot, and asked if we would be willing to revisit that. And we agreed. So we did that. And we had some directors work with some of our staff on developing a new funding formula that we thought would be better. We went to roll that out, and there were some real concerns among some of the stakeholders, because some agencies in that new funding formula, while some agencies were going to see an increase, some were going to see a pretty significant decrease. So we hit pause on rolling out that new funding formula, went and visited with a bunch of folks, got some really good feedback, and determined, we need to have confidence in whatever we're doing here by all of our stakeholders. So we determined we're gonna bring in a third party, an outside party that has a national perspective, knows Kansas, and maybe can help us with some suggestions for not only the funding formula, but in some of those conversations, it was pointed out that there's really some stuff in the Community Corrections Act from 1978 that needs clarified and maybe modernized. So years ago, the Kansas Criminal Justice Reform Commission, we brought in, I was a member of that, and brought in the Council of State Governments. They're a national entity that does this type of work. They did a great job with us then, so we're going to invite them back in, contract with them, and have them help lead that work, and those conversations will involve a lot of stakeholders. And we really want to get to modernizing the Act, at least in part, and get to a funding formula that's transparent, it's equitable, people have confidence in it, and that we can roll out. So look for that work to begin occurring right away. I'm told I got to get moving, so I might keep you folks on time. I apologize.
We're delaying you, so.
No, I apologize. So this slide, numbers from fiscal year 2025 related to individuals on post-incarcerated supervision. They're supervised in the community by our staff, so community corrections supervises people on probation, keeps them from coming to prison. Our staff in the community supervise folks who've already served a prison sentence and been released. So here's some numbers on this. The bottom half of the slide reflects the percentage of the most active offenses within the adult population, men and women that were supervised out in the community last year. And you can kind of see what those look like, and certainly can come back to it if we need to. This is juvenile community-based services and facility population trend. Categories and numbers related to juvenile corrections and related services. The youth involved in each category has remained relatively flat the past 2 to 3 years. More numbers on juvenile community-based services. These are for calendar years. I'm not quite sure why it's reported this way. Most everything else is fiscal year, but this has always been calendar years, 2014 through 2021. New convictions were noticeably down in calendar year 2021. Again, there's a pretty good lag there. Returns to an adult facility, so they failed in the community and made their way to an adult facility, were significantly up during that same 3-year period. Some challenges with juveniles. We have House Bill 2329 that's looking to address some of those challenges and concerns with youth in our communities, specifically regarding weapons, possession or use, and then out-of-home placements. congregate settings such as a group home, kids that are dangerous or pose a threat when they're in home. We've participated in a number of meetings with stakeholders, having a lot of conversations, and I know there's some testimony in the Senate on the bill this week, and we're working to just help be part of finding some solutions.
Mr. Secretary, if I might. Go ahead. Thank you. You may have noted that this is Literacy Day in the Capitol. We have a lot of people here that are concerned about literacy. I was approached by a former senator just shortly prior to this hearing who told me that 8 out of 10 juveniles in DOC custody, and I don't know the full, not necessarily custody, but 8 out of 10 juveniles having contact with the quote-unquote system are illiterate. Do you all have any data about how many of the folks in your custody are unable to read? And then quickly, what, if any, programming is there available to try to help these people to learn to read? Because I think all of us would understand none of us would be in our positions if we couldn't read.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I don't have the data here with me. I think are you talking both juvenile and adults in terms of illiteracy?
The senator was just describing juvenile to me, but she indicated, I think, that it's an even higher percentage of illiteracy, more probably like 85% perhaps, which seemed too high. I may have misunderstood. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, I don't know what that number is. We'll see if we can get that number. I will tell you, I don't think it's 85. That's just my feel for it. But there are a number that are illiterate, and then there's a greater number, at least in the adult system, that read at about a 6th grade level, which isn't where we need them to be. So there's services both in the juvenile facility and in adult facilities, adult basic education, help them with GEDs and whatnot to try to help them at least get to a higher level of proficiency.
Any information you can provide in that
Okay,
would be helpful.
we'll look to get that. A little bit about education and programming on this slide. Really the key factor is just how it's changed in the last 5 years with the reestablishment of the use of Pell dollars in correctional systems across the country. Today we offer 40 programs with industry-recognized certifications or degrees. And I'll just illustrate how much it's grown in a 20-year period from 2001 to 2019. We had a total of 7,500 enrolled in students, 750 degrees or certifications in a 20-year period. In the last 5 years, from 2021 through 2025, we had over 3,600 enrolled students and 1,250 degrees or certifications. So and I just see that continuing to grow. And I'll talk about it just a little bit later quickly, but really that educational component coupled with work skills and work opportunities are really the bedrock of that foundation for people being successful. So they can pay for stable housing, transportation, other services that they need when they get out. Again, couple education and work opportunities really helps promote success. We have tremendous work opportunities beyond the education, which is great. We have that private industry program. We have about 1,100 residents working in that. They're working for private industry employers, learning great skills, learning how to get up, go to a job, navigate the workplace. And then we have two work release components for men and one for women, where they're out in the community actually working for a business, and then they come home at the end of their back to the facility as their home for the end of the shift.
Then we'll come to Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Secretary, going on the resident work opportunities, what is the minimum wage that they earn when they're working for these corporations, private industry?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, they pay them what the prevailing wage is. They can't pay them less than the minimum wage.
Okay.
And we'll have people making in the high 20s, maybe even $30 an hour. Not lots of those, but we have some. And the beauty of it is beyond the learning the skills, is they're paying their fines, their fees, their restitution, their child support, all that stuff, and developing a savings account for when they release.
I have another wage question. I know a few years ago in this committee, before my time, but I'm very passionate about corrections. You mentioned that people who are kitchen staff members make about 30 cents an hour. Is that still their wage?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, this body, the legislature provided funding 2 years ago to increase that, and I think we almost tripled it
Okay.
from what it was.
All right.
We can get you the numbers and provide that to you.
That'll be perfect. Thank you. I have a lot of homework for you apparently, but
that's
thank you
okay.
so much for
No,
your
that's okay.
time.
Those are facility workers, and increase in their pay. Nobody could remember. We have staff that have been with us over 40 years. Nobody had seen that increase in 40 years. So we were very appreciative of that funding, as were they.
Thank you very much.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary. With reference to the work programs, we toured a couple years ago, and if memory serves me right, there was an inmate that was wanting to work, but he had less than 5 years. Do they have to have a certain amount of time left? What's the requirement for them to take advantage of the work programs?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, there's not a time limit per se if they're in a private industry program. So our private employers that are either on our grounds or just off-site at one of our correctional facilities. There is a bit of a time limit at a work release facility, and I'll use the Wichita work release facility. Employers don't want us to bring somebody in that they're only going to have for 2 or 3 months, and then they may be releasing somewhere else. So we've established, I think it's about 6 months or longer, that you have to have that amount of time left to go to a work release facility in general.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood, because I thought he had to have less than 5 years left to be able to have a job.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, so what we're trying to do is move away from somebody in a private industry job for, let's say, a 10-year period where they're in that job, they don't release for 10 years, when maybe we could cycle 2 or 3 or 4 people through that same job for 2.5 to 3 years each, so they can each get the skill as opposed to one person getting that skill. So he may have been alluding to that, saying I have too much time, I'm not eligible to get in just yet. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just kind of concerned with if they have 10 years, what are they doing with the first?
It's a great question. It's a concern for ours too. You know, we have a lot of lifers, and we have to have something that's productive for them, so they have meaning to their life, or they can become disruptive. So, you know, we have institutional jobs, and they can get in an industries program. We don't prohibit it 100%, but we just don't want too many of the long-term population tying up those jobs, because we want to get people that are releasing through there and give them an opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
We have phase 2 of our new offender management system rolled out late in the fall. We're experiencing some issues with that, some glitches. We got a team working on that. I wish those glitches were already fixed, but we continue to work on it, and we're hopeful we'll get those corrected soon. Ultimately, we're going to be in a better spot with a modern system. That part of our old offender management system was from 1978, so we'll be in a better spot ultimately. Contraband challenges, for those of you that were present, I talked about it a little bit in the fall presentation. Contraband issues, significant contraband is a number one thing nationally in corrections. It's exponentially more difficult than it was 5 or 10 years ago. Very challenging. We see almost exactly in our system what other states are experiencing. Most of the undesirable activity by our population that occurs can be tied right back to contraband. It's either the introduction of contraband, it's the collection of debt around contraband, that type thing. Really demands a lot of focus and attention by us, and we're doing that.
Representative Schlingensieben.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Can you sort of rank what the primary means of introduction of contraband into prison facilities are? I mean, what's the most frequent means of entry? Who's involved? That kind of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, I would say it's an equal distribution from what we see, almost equal. The primaries would be wall throws or drone drops, kind of combine them. We haven't seen a lot of drone drops, but you don't know what you don't know. We may have many more. We've certainly had some, but like our facility in Hutchinson and our facilities in Lansing are close to public streets and right-of-ways. People just drive up, stop, throw it right over the fence or the wall. So that's a problem. In mail, we've had a problem. You funded a mail scanning project that cut down on it quite a bit, but we had people ordering books from Amazon. That was getting they were dummying up Amazon boxes, making it look like it came from a shipper. It was coming from a private entity. Soaked paper contraband was in that. And then on people's persons, staff, contractors bringing it in. There's a lot of money behind bringing in either a cell phone or drugs themselves. So if somebody's wanting to make some money, you'll have staff bring it in. You'll have contractors, whether it be food service or treatment contractors or whatnot. We have all kinds of contractors, medical, or you'll have visitors that they're bringing in. Could come in on delivery trucks. We have that private industry program. A lot of delivery trucks for food service, a lot of delivery trucks for our private industry partners. And so for a food service truck, if there's 25 cartons of lettuce in the food service truck, one of those heads of lettuce is maybe hollowed out and got drugs in it. And how do you find that one? So it's a myriad. It's a variety of it. And this about our population. They've made some serious mistakes and they're in prison, but they're some smart people. They are cunning and they are thinking all the time. Their ingenuity knows no bounds.
Representative James has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, going back to that, I know a few people that's been, and one person's been in over 40 years, and he says that it's easy to get it through staff, security. So, and it sounds all the things that you just named as happening. How have you improved that? What happens to those individuals?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, Representative, yeah, great question. Well, certainly staff is part of it. They're the trusted agents, right? I mean, they come through the security checkpoints like everybody else, and assuming we're doing our job, scanning their packages or their backpacks and stuff, we went to a clear backpack. We've got people running stuff through package scanners. We're in the process. We have an RFP that's a request for proposal that's about to go out for body scanners at our entrance points to help with some of that. And then it's a matter of paying attention to who's maybe vulnerable to the population. If you're vulnerable in some shape, you need money, maybe you're in a bad place emotionally through stuff in your personal life, you're vulnerable to that population, so we have to look out for people. So we talk about it, we pay attention to it, and I don't think it's prevalent with a lot of staff. I think it's some staff that just don't see it as a career. They don't see the work we're doing as it's really something they're passionate about and want to do. So I'll make a few bucks while I'm here, and on I go. I don't think it's a lot of them. And to the accountability point, if somebody's found bringing in contraband, they're terminated, and if it's a criminal offense, we refer it for prosecution.
Representative Mosley.
Okay, this is a simple question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that it was mentioned somewhere that there's a potential of like jamming cell phone signals. How would that have an impact on like your radios? Like we used to fly over Afghanistan and they were jamming cell phone signals and would just mess up our radios when we were flying. And so is that going to have an impact on your radios if you're jamming those signals?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, that's the first time I've heard that. The FCC is considering allowing correctional systems to jam cell phone transmissions, and you can whitelist phones, and they're okay. I'm not enough of an expert about the technology, but that's interesting that you would say it messed with your communications radios, because that would be a concern. I'll move quickly. This slide is about our 5-year major capital programs, and I'll just touch on a couple things. That support services building that I mentioned that's being designed right now for the Topeka Correctional Facility. I'll talk about it just a little bit more. Replacement of the central unit at Hutchinson Correctional Facility is in our 5-year plan. It includes additional bed capacity, those beds that we're going to need. And then we've got stuff like replace an existing warehouse at the women's facility to maybe convert that to work release, again, for some potential more beds. Those are some of the projects. Here's that project at the Topeka Correctional Facility. It's under design right now, almost done with the design. Anticipate that that's going to be out for bid here this spring and construction to start this summer. That facility, about $40 million, I think, that you funded, allows us to enhance our medical and behavioral health services delivery of that at that facility. The facilities that are there today were built and designed to serve a population roughly half of what the facility has today, so it's just not adequate. It's really going to improve things there dramatically. Deferred rehabilitation and repair costs at our facilities. Traditionally, historically, we've gotten $4.3 million through I think through the gaming fund, had that for years and years and years and years, continue to have that. Then 2 years ago, the past 2 years, you've allocated an additional $4 million, and that's now in our budget. So now we have almost double the money to address this backlog of repairs, and it's going to make a huge difference. And we're aggressively getting after that. So thank you for that funding. Here's a list of the type of work that is addressed through that maintenance and repair projects. Also on this list reflects Kansas Correctional Industries, some new buildings that they're constructing at various facilities so we can have more of that private industry work program and get more of our population involved. We're pretty aggressive about that. Again, as I mentioned earlier, 95% of our residents are returning to their community one day. It's important that we prepare them for that release. That's not only good for them, that's good for all of us. It really enhances public safety. When they can get out and be successful and hold a job and be a taxpayer, they can become a better neighbor and make our community safer. The reverse, if adverse, if we don't have that, probably not going to be good outcomes. Accesses to the resources in the community are critical. Again, stable housing, stable transportation, medical behavioral health services, high percentage of our population needs behavioral health services, and really just that good job. That's really the key to it. And I'm excited. We're one of 4 states nationally that has been selected to participate in the Fair Chance to Advance initiative. Lengthy application process and interview, and I'm just so pleased to death that we were selected. That is an initiative funded by nonprofit foundations that is going to help states find ways to be better at developing meaningful work opportunities for people coming back to the community. So it's right in line with what we believe and what we're doing. I think it's just going to take us to the next level. So we're proud of that. Topeka Correctional Facility Nursery, so we've got a policy developed, we've got a location identified, we've got to renovate that area, and so we're getting a design plan put together to get that done and get some funding to make that happen. But we're excited about getting a nursery going at Topeka. This is our systems-wide operating budget for FY26. Facility operations comprise about 51% of the overall budget, so that's our prisons. About 51%, $331 million. That's followed by healthcare, not only our healthcare contract, but monitoring of the contract. And then we've carved out the pharmaceuticals, and we're managing that because we can take advantage of some 340B pricing that pharmaceuticals allow. So that's a big part. And then juvenile services, about 11% of the budget. The slide also has got some daily annual costs on there and costs associated with supervision in the community.
Representative Mosley has a question.
I apologize. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, on the slide with the parents, the mothers, the nursery, first of all, I commend you for that. I think that there's a lot of data out there that says that there's improved outcome for both the mother and baby. You've identified what initial location was 6 beds. How many? So babies delivered is, they said 2, 8, and 7 and 5. So at any given time, there's about what, 5 pregnant mothers in our carceral system?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, that's probably about right. There might be 1 or 2 more. One of the key points is not all of those infants born will be able to stay for other reasons. But if they are, we think about 6 will be about the right number for now.
What does a mother have to do to be eligible for this program?
Yeah, there's a lot of eligibility requirements. They have to go through some training. They have to stay out of trouble. They have to be the right classification. Behavioral health has to agree that they wouldn't be a threat to the baby. Those lots of different screenings to make sure they're eligible. It's an 18-month. The baby has to be born on site, and they have to be within 18 months of release. We don't want to have a baby born there and then staying there till they're 3 or 4. So 18 months is one of the factors.
Thank you.
Here's the governor's budget recommendations, some of them, not all of them. Fully fund our food service contracts for this current year, and the next year there's a built-in escalator there. Current health care contract for population expires June 30th of this year. There's a request for proposal out on the streets right now. We have about 9 interested parties. Probably will award a new contract, I'm anticipating in April. Might be the same vendor, might be a different vendor. But we are anticipating a significant increase in that contract based on what other states are seeing in terms of their contracts. So that's in there. Governor has in her budget established a contract with the victim identification victim information notification everyday system, VINE, which is an electronic notification system for victims. It's more efficient, it's more effective, it's just better for victims. So the AG's office has that. We can partner on that and better serve our 40,000 registered victims. She has the nursery in there and then a state employee pay plan. And I won't get too deep into this because there's a lot here, and I know we're out of time, Mr. Chairman. But some of the priorities for the agency is we have some bills that we're going to introduce this year, and I think Mr. Chairman's going to help us with the introduction of those bills. I appreciate that. We have a documents bill requiring us to provide certain documents when people release driver's license, birth certificate, that type thing. There's some real confusion over a decision, I think it's a court decision on jail time credit. So people who have served time believe if they're serving 3 sentences, they get triple the jail time credit. Our interpretation is you don't, you get 1 jail time credit, but there's a lot of back and forth. It's not clear, so we'd like to get that clarified if we could. And then there's some court cases, one in particular where the court has ruled that that if an individual incarcerated files a habeas corpus claim, a civil action, if you will, that they're entitled to representation. In the past, they've only been entitled to representation for a criminal matter. So we're seeing going to be a lot more appointed attorneys, maybe more frivolous claims. So we want to see if we can get that addressed and get that cleaned up. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have today. I stand for more questions.
Representative Schlingensieben.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. Is there a reason why we're not using as many drug-sniffing dogs as we did in the past?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, great question. Because the principal drug is K2, and they change the formulary on it all the time, and so the dogs really have a hard time sniffing it. They really don't. They're not as effective as they once were traditionally. So we eliminated our program 3 years ago, I believe, and we took the 6 staff that were assigned to that and put them into our investigations and intelligence offices. We felt we'd get more bang for the buck there. Now, we still bring in law enforcement, occasionally. We have great law enforcement partners who are willing to come in. They'll bring their dogs in and we'll do targeted searches. But we don't maintain a cadre of dogs. Just because that K2, it changes all the time. You'd be almost nonstop training of the dogs on a new scent.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Representative Seibert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Appreciate what you guys do. I know it's a lot of tough work. I do got to have another question for you. The horse facility in Hutchinson, I heard that that's going to be canceled, and that's probably one of the best things for helping people in the prison, mental health, and money making. Why is that being canceled?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, the Bureau of Land Management oversees the wild horse program on a federal level. We've had a partnership since 2001 where we've had that wild horse program. At least that's as far back as we can find documentation. Maybe it was even before then. And then they notified us here just recently that they're going to stop bringing horses to us and start taking the horses that we have. We have about a little under 200 there today. Traditionally, we've had about up to 300. And that they're just going to end that relationship with us. I'm not sure why that is. It's not because they've cited any problems with us in the program. They recently ended a similar program in Colorado just a couple, 3 months ago. So the trend seems to be that they're ending those relationships with corrections. But I agree, it's been a great program. It's good for our population that works with the animals. People love it. It's good public service. And I'm not sure why they're bringing it to a close. I'm hopeful that maybe they'll change their mind. We'll see.
Well, if you get a good answer, you gave a good answer. Like I said,
Yeah.
worked in the prison there for years. My wife did also, and I got friends that's still there, and some of them, and a lot of them are asking questions why, because that controlled the population and the attitudes of them. And you have the perfect facility for it with all that they've added. If you could get any more information in the future that comes back and gives me positives, I'd like to,
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
You betcha. We certainly will share it. At this point, we just don't know why.
Yeah,
And I
what I
agree.
heard,
that
too.
Animals in our facilities really bring the temperature down.
Yes.
They're really a calming effect. So we hate to see it go.
One thing that's agreeable, everybody said the same thing you did. They don't know why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate all the information. I've already told the committee this. I don't know if your staff has been informed, but a week from Friday, we're going to have a joint hearing with building construction and public safety on the Hutchinson Correctional Facility. So get ready for that, and there'll be, we want to know as much as we can because it's such an important issue.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. So committee, I think the original agenda that went out a few days ago said that we were going to have the Sentencing Commission talk to us on Thursday, but in fact, we're going to do that on Wednesday. So that would be tomorrow. So tomorrow we will be having committee, and at this point, I don't know for sure about Thursday. Friday we will not, for sure. So that's the current situation.
Friday we will not? I'm so disappointed.
Okay. You're objecting to that? A week from Friday we will, though.
I heard that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yes, Representative Smith.
I think you just answered it, Mr. Chair. A week from Friday, we'll talk about Hutchinson. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no more questions or objections, we will adjourn.